Here we go. Okay, today is Lighthouse Day. Let's see how this goes. So we have our reference. Here we are. And I think I say this every time, it looks deceptively simple. I've cropped this so the lighthouse is slightly off center. I'm not particularly happy with composition, but I like the colours. And let's try it and see what it looks like. Right. Let's start by doing some drawing. I might need a ruler for that horizon. There's no shame in using a ruler for straights. Right, let's just put in an upright for this lighthouse. Let's just look at it. So the horizon is about 3/4 of the way down. Okay. And this top bit is about, what would you say? I would say that's probably a 2/3 of the way up. Just put a little bit of a, so the top, a little further down than that, I'm going to put it about there. And then the horizon's around here. Okay, let's just put the horizon in. I'm going to put this in very lightly, not even putting any pressure on the pencil. It's around about halfway. Okay. And I said the top rim before the light starts. It's halfway, maybe slightly lower even, around here. It comes down just below the horizon, roughly in the middle. I'm moving my whole hand when I'm doing this. Eyeballing how wide it is. It's down below the horizon. How's that looking? Will that be convincing? I think it probably. Just roughly put in the middle so we get things nice and symmetric. And eyeballing these curves might be slightly too much. Aiming not for accuracy necessarily, but it to be convincing and symmetrical. If it's convincing, it's probably symmetrical. Right. I can't quite see what's, yeah, just slightly lean back there. Twiddly bits at the top. Oh no, it's a weather vane up there. Right, just little bits of detail. It's light. Some detail in there, which I'm not going to draw in. Comes down. I'm not going to draw. I know there's extra ridges in there, but I'm not going to draw those. Just indicate these railings. Right, now I have to get these stripes. Now this one is practically horizontal. We're going to get more curve as we go up the lighthouse. That's not right. So this one's curved, this one's straight, this one has got to be in the middle. So we're looking up at it slightly, but not quite as much as this one. A very, very slight curve there. Okay. Right. Down. Let's draw in some of these little windows through here. This one in here. Over here. Some down here. Right, now now I could possibly put in a line with this where it goes from light to dark, but I think it's so obvious. It's basically right down the middle. I don't think we really need to. There's some interesting shadow lines up there. Let's leave those. Okay, right. Let's just stand back a little bit. How's that doing? Let's just think we can cope with that. All right. That's the waterline. Just going to pop in some of this stuff over here. I don't know how much detail I'm going to do with this. I like this bit just sticks up slightly above the waterline. Gives it a bit of compositional interest. I quite like this. I'll put it that way. Lamppost in there. Okay, we have the foliage. And then we have, this is actually, I think this is called some kind of bridge or walkway over here. This comes up to our, close to us. There'll be a bit of perspective in there. I'm going to emphasize that a little bit more. Let's make it fatter down here than it is there. And that bush pokes slightly in there. I'm looking for shapes and value changes pretty much for this. And this has, this comes, put the people in, maybe. It's, I do like this kind of wiggly shadow there. Right, another grassy bit. And perspective here. I don't really care about these, but they'll be put in to put some choppiness. I need to use some white gouache for these railings because I don't know that I'm going to be bothering cutting around these. Right. Shoulders. Comes halfway down. I think that head was a bit too big. His heads were too big, weren't they? Okay, on back there. We will do this. Some of these nice shadows coming out again, which I will put in. And these people will have shadows to the right, which I'm going to emphasize a little bit. They're not actually there as such. Okay. And this is the main, this is just stuff. Now, this piece of wall comes down, this is lovely triangular shadow over there. Straight down, wibbly wobbly bit. I'm now concentrating on where these dark green bits, this shadow, where the dark bits are, making sure they have a nice, interesting shape. Oh, that was something I did. Excellent. Just another dark shape there. Dark shape. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out, because I'm really not putting in any detail. So it's all going to be somewhat abstract. And a bit of wibbly wobbly grass back here. Okay. And some distant mountains back there, but we'll put those in by hand. Okay, there we go. No idea how this is going to turn out. I'm just going to put him under zoom cam just so you can see the drawing. Fairly light, fairly slightly loose down here. I'm just checking that this looks okay. I think that's okay. We will see. Okay, right. Let's start with some sky. Now, I've got a bit of a problem with this because we've got this very white lighthouse and this graduated wash behind it. And I know a lot of people will be tempted to use masking fluid for this. I'm not going to use masking fluid because I don't like it, and also I think my one jar of masking fluid has dried up. I'm going to have to do without it. But what I am going to do, I'm going to wet the paper around the lighthouse, and this will save us having to do lots of fancy brushwork trying to paint around it, because if the paper is wet, but we leave the lighthouse dry, the colour will just flow on the wet paper up to the edges, and we won't have to worry about the blue going into the white of the lighthouse. Okay, but before we do this, let's have a look at this colour. Now, this colour is a blue, and I think it's going to be kind of cobalt bluish, maybe slightly greener. I'll do a couple of swatches, but I'm going to guess first because it's always handy to guess. I'm going to reckon that's probably around 8, maybe a 7.5 value. Let's have a look with the old value scale. There's a 7. It's a 7 up there. So I'm putting the value scale. I don't use these holes because I find there's always shadows behind them. They mask the actual colour. So I'm looking at this colour right at the boundary with the scale, and I'm squinting my eyes. And it does it kind of, that's too dark. That's too, I don't know, 7, 7.5. And down here it goes lighter. It goes to an 8. Yeah, so it goes lighter, and it looks kind of orangey down there, but I suspect it's probably just greying out slightly. I put it looks as though this blue is going to orange, but if I put this over here, it's not really orange, is it? It's still blue. It's just less blue than it is up there. Okay. Actually, let me just show you what this looks like on the Chroma Magic tool, which I did have up. Let's have a look. Here we go. Now, this is the development version, so there's no goes. Actually, no, I can't do that. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Now, let me try, what have I got on here? Let me try this. Okay, let's interact. Load file. There's the picture. There we go. Okay, so that's not so bad. So we've got the photo on the left, and if you click anywhere in here, it will show you the actual color down below, on the panel below, and on the right is a zoomed in version. So if I click right at the top, you show it's a blue, definitely, and it's a value 8, so I've got a value 8 up there. Now this is from the photo. My printout is slightly different, so it doesn't surprise me that the value is slightly off, but it's close. It's quite a bright value blue. Okay, now let's click down the bottom. There we go. So that's down the bottom near the horizon. So it's still a blue. It's a slightly more purpley blue. So it has gone slightly, it's got slightly more red in it, but it's definitely not an orange. But it's lost a lot of chroma. It's much more grey. So that's good to know with that. Okay. If you want to use this tool, by the way, go to chromamagic.com and there's a free version there. And you can load up your own photos and use it. It's really useful for testing yourself and your color perception and finding out which colors are actually in your reference. Okay, so let's just take this off, back to the canvas cam. Right, so we want a value. Let's go lighter actually. I prefer to go lighter with skies. And let's see if we can mix up this color. I'm going to use a bit of scrap paper and a small brush. There we go. Right, so let's have a look at cobalt. This is not going to be quite the right color. No. So I've got a bit of cobalt in there. I'm putting some water in it because we know it's got to be quite light. It's going to be an 8. I'm just going to put a splodge next to it. Okay. Now, I'm hoping you can see that that is, value-wise, it's not too far off. But colour-wise, it's not quite green. It hasn't got enough yellow in it. I'm just going to add in a little bit of yellow, very small amount. It won't take much. And to be honest, if you're doing this, you don't have to have it the exact blue. I just quite like this slightly greenish blue in the sky. And that's just a very small amount of yellow in there. And can you see how much closer it is to what's in the photo? You kind of get used to these very small tweaks you have to do. Right, and I actually prefer that colour to that one. You get very sensitive to very small colour changes. Okay. Right, now I'm going to mix up a fair amount of this. I'm going to use a mop brush. This is an Escoda Aquario mop brush. It's this, I don't know what size it is. So it's a 14. It's a 14. It's a really nice brush. I'm going to mix up a fair amount of this. A bit of water. A little bit of yellow. Might be too much. I don't actually want a green sky. Ta-da-ta-da. Right, where's this look? I'm going to use my swatch a little bit, a bit stronger. The other thing, if we're going to wet the paper, it will dilute the colour slightly. Okay, let's leave that. So I'm going to leave that in there, and now I'm going to wet the paper. So I can go back in as quickly as I can to put the colour on before the paper dries. Now it's hot in here and I've got the fans on, so I'm going to have to work quickly. Now I'm going to cut around this lighthouse. This side is not as important as the other side because this is the shadow side. And so we're going to go darker on this side. So a few boo-boos. Fine. Right. Now this is another Escoda Esquereo brush. You don't need, this is a too fancy a brush for this kind of thing, but they came as a set, as a Christmas present. So I'm using this one. The smaller one is I find very, very useful. This bigger one is nice, but I could certainly live without it. Right. Okay. I'm hoping just down to the horizon. Sides. Right. Okay. Right. Now I'm going to go back to my other brush, which should still be full of pigment. I'm going to do a graduated wash across this. I'm going to have to do each side separately, which is going to be interesting. Moving across in a single stroke. Discovering that I missed the water. Right, just adding in a little bit of water into my paint now, just to start lightening this up. A bit more water. And I'm soon going to come to the point. It's going to add in a little bit of cadmium orange. Just going to warm this up a little bit and neutralize it. A bit of water in there. Hoping that will do. That's probably okay. There's a little bit of choppiness up here, but it's down now. Could have been a little stronger, I think, with the colour at the top, which is one thing I was worried about. I was slightly too cautious. The colour's gone on pretty evenly. I'm just taking a very dry brush and just using the tip. It will suck up any excess colour. I've gone into this a little bit. That's the shadow side, so it's not as disastrous as it would be elsewhere. Now, I'm going to let that dry. There's some distant hills there, but I'm going to put those in later. One thing I am going to do while I'm here is clear my palette. It's not what I was thinking, but I'll do it while I'm here. Right, I'm just going to use a bit of paper towel to pick up these dribbles. I used to just leave these here. Then one time I dragged my arm over the whole thing and it ruined it. Also, they can, if you're not careful, make their way back into the painting, which never gives a good effect. Okay, right. Well, let's leave that. I'm going to put the video on pause just for a couple of minutes to let that dry, and then we'll move on. Okay, we're back. It's not quite dry, but it's fairly dry. But let's look at these values in this lighthouse whilst we're waiting. Now, the white bits we're going to leave as white paper. We have this red piece in the middle, and we have these shadows. Now, if we compare this to the sky, it's darker than the sky in the white piece. And I'm going to guess that's around a 5 in there. So let's check. No, it's lighter than a 5. Yeah, it's around a 6. And I'm going to push that slightly lighter. I'm also going to, this is it's quite neutral, that colour. You can see that's very similar. I'm going to push it towards the blue. So we go from white paper to around a 6, maybe a 6.5 in there. And this red stripe in the middle, it's kind of light on this side. What do you think that is? That's about an 8, 7.5. Oh no, much darker. No, I got that really wrong. Look at that. Yeah. Let me just check. Let's have a look on the old Chroma Magic tool. See what it thinks it is. So let's click on this red side. Yeah, it's a 7, and it's very orange. Very orange in there. It's a 7. Let's just have a look on my printout. I think it's slightly lighter than a 7. I think mine's about a 7.5, but let's say it's a 7. It goes very, very dark on the shadow side. Let's just click on that. Yeah, it's down at a 2. Very deep red. We might have trouble hitting that one. And if I just click on in that middle stripe, yeah, let me just nudge that over a little bit. It's quite bright in there, and a mid, just below a mid value. Okay. Let's just click on the white piece here. Yeah, see, that's kind of purple in the photograph. I'm going to push it towards blue. I think I'm going to do that. Okay. And what does that say? It says it's a 6. So we were pretty close for that. So we've got a 7 out here, and then there's a 4 for this bright stripe, and then right down to a 2 there. And then we've got white paper and a 6. Now I'm gonna make that value. I'm gonna make the value slightly lighter, I think. And I'm also going to not make it purple. I think I'm going to push it more blue. So now for shadows on white things, I like to use cerulean because it granulates so well. So I'm going to use a bit of cerulean in there. Now I'm going to neutralize that with a bit of burnt sienna, which will grey it down. Whoops, it's too much, I think. That's going to be too dark. I'll put some water in that. I think that might be too grey. I don't know. Let's see what that value looks like. I think that value is probably about right. I'm judging by the consistency of the paint, obviously, and what it looks like when it's on the paper. 2. What did I say? 6. Yeah, that's almost bang on a 6. It'll probably dry a little later. So let's go with this then. Now I'm going to start underneath. Start with this ridge part here. Come down. I want this colour to go on nice and cleanly, and I'm going to have damp brush so we can soften this edge. Just looking at that value change, and I think that's okay. Comes down. All right. That might look a little weird. I know the values are right. Okay. And clean my softening brush. Soften that so it comes out into the light. And again. Some kind of weird shape there. And again, just softening that edge. This is just a damp brush. I'm just pulling it over the edge. I'm not really painting with it. I'm just placing water on there. And just soften that edge. We've got a little bit, some lines here. All right, that's all I want to do with that right now. Let's put on some of this red. No, I've gone straight through the red stripe. Hoping that's going to read well when we come and put in all the details. Right. Red. Now this was an 8 on this side and really quite dark. I'll have to let that dry actually. Ah no, let's see. If we get a bit of bleeding, so be it. We don't want things to be completely crisp everywhere. Alright, so I'm going to use some of my vermilion. It's not quite, it's a little pinker than that. And I'm going to need a slightly smaller softening brush, I think. Let's use that one. So I'm mixing up this kind of mid value that's right here. Quite same. Right. It's pretty where I think it is. Oh, it's no good. This is a synthetic brush, which is very annoying. Put a bit of extra colour in there. This isn't as dark as it needs to be over here. I'm just filling in the layer. Okay. Like that. Just want to make sure those shadow turns at the same point. I may need to modify that later. Okay. All right. Let's put in some C whilst we're down here. Now this C value is probably around a 4 or a 5. Let's just check. It's a 5 and it's a blue, and it's probably a slightly more purple blue. Yeah, so this is a 5 PB, which is slightly more purple than our, yeah, it's a 5. Okay, so what a nice value 5 blue, and this is probably close to pure ultramarine, but I think let's use some cobalt for this. And it goes slightly darker towards the bottom. So just get rid of this red. It's not looking like much so far, is it? In fact, it's looking a bit scrappy. Wait, let's see if it works out. I'm just thinking what brush to use. I don't want to use my big mop, I don't think. Let's try this one. This is a silver black velvet, size 14. Right. Look at some cobalt. I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine in there. And I actually think I'm going to use a little bit of black. Not because I want to take it darker. That's not the reason for using it. I don't think that blue is as bright as the ultramarine and cobalt we get from the tube. I'm just going to put this next to it. Can you see that? Yeah, that's about right, isn't it? Right. And my paint is nice and fluid, so I'm hoping I should be able to get a nice bead with this. Just go. It was darker down here, but I'm just going to leave it as is. Leave that paint nice and fluid. Let's do this side. The red is slightly off in here, isn't it? Right, now this, it's not leaving a bead, which means if I leave it, it will dry. Right. Some bushes in there, I could paint through that. Okay. Right, just pick up those little bits. There we go. I like that. I like that. It's just plain colour. I'm not doing anything fancy. It's just there as a bit of value contrast, really, more than anything. Okay. Oh, that's nice. I'm thinking I should put in. I'm wondering whether to finish this lighthouse before we start on the foreground, because it's worrying me a little. Yeah, maybe actually. Well, yeah. Let's. I'm going to put him on pause, let him dry, because I want that sea to be dry. And if I start in with the lighthouse, I'm going to pull paint everywhere. So another 2-minute break for letting this dry. Okay, we're back. I've had a few slurps of tea. I'm quite enjoying this. I still don't know whether it's going to work or not, but I am quite enjoying it. Right, so let's have a look at gussying up this lighthouse. Let's darken up this middle red piece before we do anything, I think. Now, this value is not nearly dark enough. The values go out. This is, yeah, it's around 4. Interestingly, I don't know whether it shows up on the screen as a 4, but I'm squinting at it like crazy here, and it's definitely, yeah, maybe 4.5, but yeah, around there. And it needs to be something like a 2. Certainly darker. But it's still got colour to it. So I'm going to take my pinkish red. I'm not going to I'm not going to add black to it if I can possibly avoid it, but I am going to add in a little burnt sienna. Burnt sienna will take it slightly more orange, which is kind of what we need. It will darken it now, but I don't think it will take it as dark as we need. I don't know, maybe. Let's try this. I don't want to add black because black will make it grayer. Grey is not what we want in here. So let's put this on. I'm using the belly of the brush. Oh, I went outside the lines there. Michelle, you really should know by now. All right, and oops. Don't brush across that. How does that look? It's looking a little better, isn't it? And it's got that nice bright red stripe in the middle. That's looking a lot better. And I didn't have to use any black or blue in there, which is nice. I'm going to use a bit of gouache. Remove that boo-boo. Okay, right, I'm going to leave that for now. That might be okay. I mean, it's not the same as the photo. It's not as dark as the photo, but I suspect the photo has made it look made that shadow look darker than we really need it to be. Okay, right. Okay, so what else do we need to do? We need to put in some detail up here. There's this nice little dark stripe here, which I think is going to be good. Some dark windows. And that's about it, really, isn't it? That's all we need. And I think you'll be surprised how little we do need on this. I'm just going to spray my palette to get rid of this red. Now, darks. I'm going to mix up a kind of a neutral grey with ultramarine burnt sienna. And I'm going to have my smoothing brush handy because we're going to want hard edges and soft edges on this. So I've got my painting brush, which is starting, it's a nice sable, it's starting to lose its point annoyingly. And my softening brush. Right, so some ultramarine and some burnt sienna. All right, I'm going to put in that big black piece. I'm going to put the largest darks in first and then work my way back to the smaller ones. And if I can get away with not putting in all of the small darks, I will. Right. So my paint consistency is, it has a little water in it, but it's quite stiff. Right, now I'm leaving little bits of paper showing for this. I'm going to go in with my smoothing brush. Just dot a bit of water so the pigment sprays out a little bit. It just gives it a bit of value, variation to suggest detail. Right, let's put in this these diagonal diamond shaped things, but I can't paint those in. It's a little shadowy bits just in the nooks. Goes across here just a little bit. I'm going to use my softening brush in the shadow areas. I think I might soften these a little bit. I think that's okay. Let's come down. Just put in a couple of these windows. This is where this brush not being pointy enough is annoying. Well, that should have been blue in there, shouldn't it? Oh well. A little dab there. Dabs over here. One more. Again, I'm going to do some softening. I don't want these to be too stark. Softening around here. A little bit. Right, now at the top, it's not very much, it's a couple of little lines. It should probably be blue. How's that looking? I can't tell. I think that might be okay. Oh, I've got clamp. Look at that. Huge red smudge on there. Well, it's there now, isn't it? It's there now. Just using a bit of water to see if that will come up. See, I should have left that to dry, shouldn't I? And I didn't. I'm just going to add in a bit of yellow ochre. These shadows under here, and it's slightly warmer. They're going on quite stark, and then I'm going to soften them with some water. You can just see the vestigial bits of them. All right, let's go in with some darks on this window. It's still wet, but it might work. This one down here. Done it again. Helps if I don't have it on my fingers. Just and okay. Just want to put in a bit of blue. It's not exactly the same colour as the sky. It's slightly darker and slightly greyer up there. Okay. some variations in this dark. Right, how's that looking? I don't think I like it very much. Just going to stand back and see what that looks like. Let me see if I can see while I'm here. Lesson learned, kids. Let your red paint dry. Right, there we go. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, it's okay. I think it's enough for now anyway. Yeah, let's put in some foreground. And then we'll see what we're looking at. Right. Let's see one last thing whilst I'm here. No, this is actually white up here. Just put in a little. Right. Okay. Yeah, actually, while I'm up here, I'm just looking at these railings. I'm going to put in a little bit. Okay, I'll do for now. Right. Foreground. Now, I'm going to put in something that's kind of the space light colour, which I'm guessing is some kind of beige. So I'm going to take some burnt sienna. I'm going to put in some yeah, let's see what ultramarine does, but keep it on the brown side. I'm going to add in a little yellow ochre. Right, fair amount of water because we want it to be light. Yeah, let's do that. And I'm going to put it pretty much over the whole thing as a base colour. Got these white railings coming in places, but we need to put those in. I think we can gouache those. I'm going to have my spray bottle handy. Bit more yellow ochre. It's just slightly warmer over here. I'm going to spray it a little just to put some mottles in there. Okay, just a bit more colour in here. Okay, right, another quick pause because I need to let that dry. And I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Okay, well, let's put some darks in. I'm going to mix up a nice olivey green for this these foliage bits, bushes and things like that. So I'm going to start with some lemon yellow. I'm going to add in a little bit of black, which will give us a nice olive green, which is going to be too yellow. Although I don't know. It's nice, and yeah, maybe we should. I'm just going to add in a smidgen of that, The value seems about right. I'm just going to smudge it on where I see these foliage bits. I'm going to have my smoothing brush handy. I'm going to try and join these together as much as I can. And my smoothing brush. Just putting a little bit of variation, softening some edges. That's a bit of interest. It's almost like drawing with the paint, this bit. That is raw. I'm not going to do that. So then we come out here. This is a bit of foliage over here. The value is nice and dark. I think that's going to work quite well. Now, come over here. Now, this has got rocks and bits of red and brown and stuff. I may be painting bits that aren't bushes, but the value's about right, I think, so it should be okay. Let's add in a bit of red in there. Yeah, and get my smoothing brush. I'm just painting with water, making the paper wet. So the pigment that's down there fills in the gaps. Okay. There's a little bit up here. I do like to join the darks together. This dark will be joined to that by this shadow over there. This one here, so I'll join it. It doesn't have to be joined by much. They just look a lot better. If they're not isolated. How does that look? I like that. I like that. I think I'm improving as I'm going along with this. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. She says, does she? Immediately paints over something she shouldn't have. Okay, let's calm down. It's getting redder as we go down, so let's do that. Just the side of a wall. It's going to be a little sliver of light poking through there, so it looks like wall. So it's really quite red down here. And this is just pure vermilion that's going in here. There's that wall. A bit more of this olive green and get away from the red. And that's all that, wasn't it? Okay. It's very abstract down here, which I quite like. There we go with that. Right, what next? Let's put in these shadows, this wall, because it'll fill in the gaps a little bit. I'm not liking this top of this lighthouse at all. I'm not sure what to do about that. I think the sky is too light. And the shadow is too light. Everything's too light. Anyway, let's deal with that in a bit. Let's put some of these wall shadows in, and I'm suspecting they look fairly neutral grey. Let's go back to our nice ultramarine and burnt sienna mixture. I'm going to leave it slightly blue. Right. This is kind of choppy down here. My softening brush is coming out. I know there's bricks and doodads here. I'm going to spray that a little bit, give it a little bit of texture down here. Across. No. Already done that right anyway. Okay. Just a little bit here. Just softening here and there. This bit is the most important bit. A few extra pieces just to find some of the interest down here. And a little bit of dark. I'm definitely not drawing, painting things. I'm just looking for accents of dark that make the painting read slightly better. Let's put in just adding in a few things that might suggest railings and stuff. How does this go here? And there's some stuff here, wasn't there? Dibbly dibbly dab dab. Dibbly dibbly dab dab. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow ochre over this side. I think that's not too bright. Just to darken down. Just this bit. Oh, that's worked out too well. Let's spray that. Okay. I think I'm gonna probably leave that as that is right now. Probably needs a little more dark. I'm going to put over this shadow here. Again, it's my ultramarine and burnt sienna mixture. Okay. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these people. Let's put their feet in anyway. Right. Okay. Right. I'm just going to stand back and see what that's looking like. I'm enjoying painting it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's working out. I don't know. Let's put some darks in over here, and also let's put in some darks for these people. It's going to use a little bit of burnt sienna. Faces. It's just the shadow side of that face. His arm. I think she's actually wearing a hat. Oops. No. Just soften that down. So a little bit of shadow. Shorts. And legs. Right, that'll do. Right, a little bit of yellow ochre. Actually, start with my grey-ish. Put some shadow over here. Oops. And actually, this is slightly warmer than here, isn't it? Isn't even right. Some slightly reddy foliage colour. So like yellow, black, a little bit of vermilion in there. It needs to be darker. It's the valley that's really gonna hit the spot. Just painting around these sort of choppy tops. Is that dark enough? That'll do. And there we go. I think I'm okay with that. I think I'll probably just leave that as is. Right. Let's have a look. Do I dare risk darkening down that sky? I don't know. Well, yeah, let's have a go, shall we? Because I mean, this isn't going to be a showpiece. I'm just standing back. Yeah, let's try darkening down the sky. The white of the lighthouse is not standing out how I envisioned it to stand out. So let's do the same thing. Let's put some water on. Okay, it's slightly grubby water, but I can cope with that. Okay. I know I should mix up my paint ahead of time. That'll be okay, right. Now this is going to add on to what's already down there, so I don't want it too dark. Right, here we go. Okay. Mix up enough. Nearly enough. Gonna slightly add some cat orange into that. Okay. Left a bit, never mind. Right, I'm just going to pick up these pieces. Right, okay, and around these edges. Now that, I think, looks a lot better, doesn't it? I'm kind of liking it now. Right, another quick pause because I need that to dry, and then just a few white details on the lighthouse, and I think we'll be done. Put in this lamppost too. Okay, right, another quick pause. Okay, back again. Yes, that improved it no end, didn't it? Yes. Good. Good, 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 good. Right, now I've got some white paint. This isn't gouache, this is Dr. Martens bleed proof white. It's a lot more opaque than gouaches. I find that when you put gouache on, it looks opaque when you put it down, but then when it dries it goes slightly transparent. So let's just try some of this. Just put on a few. This isn't really dry enough. Few marks for these. Diagonal pieces. Right, and in here. Carry on through. A little bit for this. Putting in some slight accents. And these railings. So it's really catching the light just there. Now, what do we do with this down here? Do we put some of these? I think I'll try some. Just wanted to add just a little bit of interest. And some here. She painted some of those in. I don't want to go around and put every single thing in. Just a few where they might. Okay. Yes, I think they're working just little pops of white here and there. Looks actually needs a. I could have done more over here, but I just Didn't want to in the end. Someone's going to have to run into the room and tell me to stop soon because I'm getting carried away. Right, okay, I'm going to stop. There's one final thing I'm going to put on. That's this lamppost. I'm going to do in very light grey. And then I think I'm done. Right, it's light grey, bit of ultramarine, bit of burnt sienna, bit of water, burnt sienna. I did put in these background mountains today, but I think I'm going to quit one on ahead. She says she just sees one last thing that she's going to put in. Just want this to go slightly darker. So that reads as an actual name change. Right, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm not sure. I'll have to wait until tomorrow, I think, to know whether I like it or not. If that's going to work this up, I'd do another version. And it's other bits. The bit I thought I'd really enjoy would be the lighthouse itself, and I didn't. I did rather like the foreground, but whether I'll like it tomorrow morning, I don't know. Anyway, I'll just put him on zoom cam so you can see a zoomed in version. Yeah, I don't know. Not sure. Not sure. But anyway, that's the lighthouse. I certainly had fun doing it, and if you try it, I hope you have fun too. And if you do try it, I'd love to see the results. Okay, bye bye. See you next time.